Hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of the Football Experience. Caleb and I are back after a miserable weekend for him and what's the opposite of miserable? Gratuitous? I don't know.
The weekend you had.
One wonderful weekend. Yeah, but so I guess that's the perfect way to lead it into the game. I'm gonna hand it to you so that you can get it all off your chest. Because a lot of Liverpool, from what I've seen, a lot of Liverpool fans, they're angry and disappointed at the same time. But I'm not sure whether they're disappointed. Like, they're angry at the ref, but they're disappointed in their team. Because yeah, I'll let you kick it off, and then I'll give my thoughts whether I agree with you or not. Who knows? Maybe we might agree with a lot of it. There might be some things that we disagree on, but yeah, I'll hand the reins over to you, my friend.
Well, I think disappointment probably stems from start of season expectations, where we were meant to be at least the second best team in the Premier League and one of the top teams in Europe, but it just hasn't panned out that way. So for me, disappointment probably isn't the right word. I thought we were actually pretty good in the game, considering we were playing against a genuine top side in England. You can't say in Europe because they're not playing in the Champions League, so I thought I might get that little dig in there. But no, a genuine the top side if you go by the league table in the Premier League. So I mean, to be disappointed with the way we performed, and I think is a little harsh. You can take little gripes with definitely the first two goals, and look, I don't want to focus on the third one too much, but that's a farce. That's a penalty. That's an absolute joke. And I can't. I mean, when you've even got Ian Wright coming out and he's actually getting emotional that's given a penalty after the game because he thinks it's farcical that it's given as a penalty. I mean, that says it all for me. And especially when Michael Oliver, and they made this point in the post match, when he's let so much go in the game, and I thought he'd refereed the game quite well. It felt like I want to be the star of this show moment to give this penalty for me. And I thought he made it all about him there, where I just didn't think there was any need to. And I actually thought it probably was enough to go to VAR and just say, look at this again. Are you sure that that's enough to give a penalty? Because it's not like Thiago goes through the back of Gabriel Jesus to get the ball. They're both coming in from the side, and both of them are putting their legs in to get a loose ball. And that's the key term for me. It's a loose ball. Gabriel Jesus does not have control of that ball. Thiago doesn't have control of that ball. That's a 50-50 ball both players are going for in pretty much the same manner. It's not even like Thiago's wound up to try and clear the ball like you see so often. And for me anyway, that shouldn't be a penalty when someone goes to clear a ball and an attacker jumps in the way of them just to get some contact. But yeah, look, I don't know. I don't know if you have a different opinion on the decision, but for me, that's not a penalty. But I knew as soon as it was given, the referees were going to hide behind technically he hasn't got the ball and technically Jesus has got the ball first. But where's Jesus' touch gone anyway? It's not even like he set up his touch for a shot. It's bounced off his leg into no man's land. Like, for me, there's no way we should be given penalties for that. But it kind of reminds me of like an Andy Robertson one he gave away, I think, 2 seasons ago at Brighton, where they hadn't raised the threshold, but it was like this innocuous, tiny little touch on Welbeck's foot. And they actually went to the monitor and overturned the decision to give the penalty for that. So look, it's disappointing to lose in that way to the referee, but I mean, if you had to say one team has to win this game, then you have to give it to Arsenal for the second half because they were really the only team pushing in the second half. I thought first half we might have been the better team, except we just did stupid things right at the start of the half and right at the end of the half. That second goal is inexcusable. On the stroke of half time, away from home at a team that this season at least is better than you, why are you sending your 2 centre halves forward for a nothing free kick? It's not even like the free kick is in a dangerous area. It's on the halfway line. Just keep everyone in shape and just keep the ball for another 30 seconds. What the hell was the point of sending the two centre halves up for a bang average free kick from Tsimikas, and then we're all over the place from there? Obviously, Trent and Henderson are really bad. To double up on Martinelli and still let him inside is woeful. The first goal comes back to what we said in the preview. Liverpool have started slowly. Arsenal have started quick. We never actually got another view of Saka, whether he was onside or offside. I'm fine with it because when it's marginal like that, just go with on-field decision. But the nitty-gritty that they normally want to apply to it, we never actually got the lines out for that, so I thought that was a little bit weird. But from there, I mean, Henderson's positioning is not good. You can gripe whether Henderson should be in the team or Fabinho, or whether it should be both of them. Maybe Thiago plays a little more advanced, but no one was protecting in that moment. The first goal for me is not. I know Trent's going to be an easy target, but for me, that's not. You can maybe put 2% of the blame for that goal on Trent, because someone's got to be denying Odegaard the chance to get his head up and look for a pass or look for a shot on the edge of the box. And for me, that's Henderson. And in the first place, Tsimikas catches himself absolutely nowhere. He's not helping Van Dijk deal with Saka, and he's not going in and joining in on the press. He was doing absolutely nothing. So that the first goal and the second goal really pissed me off. The third goal is nothing you can do about it. If the referee wants to be a hero on the day, he just wants to be a hero on the day, so he chose that option. But yeah, no, what you've got to remember is we're playing a genuinely good side, and they showed it again. And I thought the game was a ding-dong battle. Could have been a draw. It was one of those that could have been a draw, but if you had to choose one winner, it was an Arsenal win. And they played well. They're attacking players yet again, particularly obviously on the right hand side, but even on the left hand side, Tsimikas is a pretty average at best backup, and he's showing that. So they were able to get as much joy as they wanted on either side. But look, I thought there were definitely positives for Liverpool as well, because I thought Darwin was good in the game, especially first half. Who'd have thunk it? A striker that you pay 75 million for is actually pretty decent. His hold-up play, his pressure was good, and I thought the system really helped him as well, having 3 players around him to sort of help him hold the ball up and release it quicker, and then sort of I just think getting more support to him helps him because he's more of an out-and-out striker. So I wouldn't go as far as disappointing. I definitely wouldn't crucify Trent for his part. Maybe the second goal, he comes in too hot. But Henderson also just decides to run past the ball as well. So, and they're both players who have been much maligned this season. So from a Liverpool perspective, and I know you'll give the Arsenal perspective, there were positives in the game, but when you're now below Bournemouth in the table, it's time to get properly worried at this stage that we're not going to make top 4.
Yeah, but I still think you guys will stay up. So, I'll try to cover all the points, and I don't really have much to rebut of yours, but I'm going to try to go in chronological order so I don't miss anything. So the first goal, they didn't bring the lines out like you said here on this. I'm guessing worldwide, like outside of the UK, it's all the same broadcast that they like broadcast feed. So I'm guessing I get the same footage that you got over there. Yes, they didn't bring the lines out, but because they're so anal about the lines and because offside is literally black and white, there's nothing subjective about it. I assume that they already did the Saka lines while they were, maybe they can do them simultaneously while they're checking the Martinelli ones. So I assume that they already did them and they already checked them. So like, all right, we don't need to show this one, or we don't need to like waste time showing the audience this one because we've already checked it and it's good. It did look very marginal, but it's really weird. This is my one gripe. Whenever they show these like offsides, the camera angle is like never directly in line. It's like sort of like maybe like 10-15 degrees on one way or the other. So like while it may look offside on the angle that we get, when you actually put it at a 90-degree angle to the line, it's not offside. So that's that.
Well, that for me is why they need to show the lines. If they're even going to like show us the still of that image, like to clarify everything, just show us the lines from that. If you
and the thing is that since they already showed it for like 5 seconds or something, because they showed it pretty quick, like 5 or 10 seconds before they moved on to the next footage. Just show it with the lines, like at the same time. Like I don't understand why that technology doesn't exist. If it maybe I don't know. That's something to bring up with the producing team, I suppose. Now, because the goal came so early, my gripe is sort of that we didn't actually get to see Arsenal try to play or outplay Liverpool in the first half. They pretty much immediately, especially after maybe 10 minutes, they pretty much immediately went to like, okay, let's protect this and try play on the break. And like I feel like they let you guys play more than you guys took control of the game. I don't know if you felt the same way. Because you guys weren't creating threats. I didn't really see many threats in the first half, to be honest.
Not as many. I don't know. It was a game where it was more chances to make chances, but I thought we gave you problems in terms of whereas Tottenham would just sink back and just let you have that containing shape and that control over the game that you guys desire. I think our pace of game really pushed you in terms of your containing game, probably more than I've seen all season, to be fair. You found it a lot more difficult to contain us deeper in our half, whether that was a mentality thing, like you say, of you guys dropping back. You did keep pushing on with it for another 10 or 15 minutes after the goal, to be fair.
Yeah.
But then after that spell, I thought we got into the game, like you say, whether that was mentality or whether that was just us being definitely more attacking, leaving more players up forward, and then also playing more direct past your containing players like Ben White. And obviously he didn't have Zinchenko, so he's huge to that shape. So maybe maybe you could give Arteta a little bit of credit in terms of he tweaked it slightly and said, look, we can't necessarily play the containing way that we've been playing all season against Liverpool because we know the game becomes a bit more ding-dong up and down. So let's go with a more physical left back, even though Tomiyasu's a right back to deal with Salah. Even though we lose a bit of that containment, maybe that was in his thinking. I don't know, was Zinchenko injured? Because I don't think I saw him on the bench.
I'm not sure. Like, he's sort of been in and out of the team because, like, I remember really early on in the season, like, he had that injury against, I think in the second or third round, like, he already got injured and, like, he was already out for, like, a week or two, and then he came back, and then, so he's sort of in and out, so I'm not sure what his status is. But just on the Tomiyasu point, and someone pointed it out on, I can't remember if it was on one of the punditry teams or if it was on Arsenal Fan TV, but someone pointed out like how putting Tomiyasu at left back was a masterstroke against Salah because Salah likes to cut in, and then you're cutting in onto Tomiyasu's stronger foot, which is and I also heard a rumor that when Tomiyasu got home, when he emptied out his pockets, like he emptied out his keys, his wallet, his watch, and a bit of Mo Salah. So
yeah, that's a good one.
But honestly, like jokes aside, I told Matthias, Mo Salah was literally a ghost. Like in the first half, I think he only had like I'd love to see how many touches he got. He probably got like 5 touches. In all honesty, and the touches that he did get, he never tried to dribble past Tomiyasu from memory. In the second half, I don't think he got any touches before he got taken off. So that turned out to be like a masterstroke. Because I remember we talked about who's going to play Zinchenko or Tierney to contain Salah, and I think at least I can't remember if we both predicted that Tierney would play because he's the more defensive left back, and Salah in the past has had success against Zinchenko when Zinchenko's been at Man City. So the prediction was Tierney, but there we go. We see Tommy Asu at left back, which is a really interesting tactical shift.
Yeah, just before you go on, Klopp's substitutions baffled me. I know we've got a big game at Ibrox in the midweek, but we were still in this game, and to take off pretty much all your front players and bring on less dynamic front players. Firmino worked out because he scored a really nice goal, and he always scores against Arsenal. But yeah, I guess obviously he had to bring off Diaz, so that was fine. But
he's injured, isn't
he? Well, it looked like he got injured.
Yeah.
Jota coming back from a fairly long-term injury, maybe I could understand, but I can't understand taking off Salah, even though he was having a bad game. We needed some dynamism, and then we just died in the game. We weren't able to create anything after we made all the subs, and then late in the game where we needed something to get back into the game, we just never looked like we could do it. So I was a bit disappointed with particularly the Salah substitution. I know Trent got injured and I know Luis Diaz got injured, so he had to bring those two players off. But Salah, I don't feel like he had to, and he probably should have left him on, even though he wasn't having a good day, to your point.
Yeah. But continuing on along the chronological timeline, I think the next big... You didn't actually bring this one up. The Jota handball into Gabriel. Do you think that should have been given, or like as a neutral? And I watched Laura Woods on TalkSport. She actually brought out the actual official ruling of it, and she mentioned that it's actually really subjective. The way it's written, it's really subjective. Like some referees, based on how the law is written, some referees will give it and some referees won't. To me, and from memory, if I hope I'm staying consistent, but because I mentioned it about the handball in the World Cup final, and that's me being a neutral, not me being a Croatia fan. But when you're getting the ball. When the ball's striking your hand and you have no time to react, I don't think that should be given a penalty. And it wasn't like he was trying to block a shot or anything like that. And it was literally like less than half a meter. It looked like he kicked it up into his hand because he was trying to flick it over his head. It wasn't like he was shooting and Gabriel was like trying to make his body bigger and trying to out and like block a shot. If that was the case, I'd agree with a penalty, because that then goes back to the one that I brought up last pod, the Leicester Nottingham Forest one, where I think it was Harvey Barnes or someone kicked it into the Forest player. Like it was actually a shot on goal, and the Forest player was making himself bigger, and he handballed it, and that one wasn't given, and I believe it should have been. But this one, I can see why it wasn't, but if it was given, I can see why it would have been given as well. So
yeah, I totally agree with that assessment. I think it was he was trying to dink that back into like the 6-yard box.
Yeah, he was trying to flick it over. No, he was trying to flick it over him. He didn't even. It didn't look like a pass. It looked like trying to like flick it over him so that he could like just outmaneuver him and then recontrol the ball and then go on to face the keeper. If it was a pass, I think it would have been a handball.
Yeah, look, I don't know how much of a difference it makes. It was either to beat the man or it was to dink it back into the box. So it was, whichever way the ball was going, it was going closer to goal, and it was going to where there was a chance that Liverpool could make a chance from it, either if Jota controls the ball afterwards or if it's a little dink into a dangerous area. I totally agree with the assessment, though. Like, when I was watching it, I'm like, it's very harsh to give that, so I can understand why that's not given. But at the same time, he is blocking the ball from going to a place where it's of more danger using his hand, which is not completely tucked into his body. I know it's not.
I think his elbow was tucked in, though, so
Yeah, his
I'm not
elbow,
sure
but
if
his
I'm
hand's a little
like,
bit
yeah,
out.
like I
And
think it
then,
was like
yeah,
that.
it's,
So I'm not sure if the
yeah.
camera angle's catching this. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, but I agreed with what you said. And the only disappointing thing is after seeing how little you need to do for a penalty later in the game, well, why the hell aren't you given that? So,
Yeah.
Michael Oliver, in terms of, if you want to go Arteta on Michael Oliver, in terms of what he did in each box, he had a bad day. But in between the boxes, he was fine.
But I think also I didn't watch the West Ham game, but apparently was it Crystal Palace? One of those games there was a handball for a very similar incident. Apparently, I didn't watch the game. I haven't seen the incident, but that one was given, and it was from what I've heard, it was very comparable to this one. So, but again, based on what the way the rule is written, it's extremely subjective. So yeah, some refs will give it, some refs won't. But moving on to what would the next major point? I guess like you guys assumed. I'd say you guys assumed control of possession from maybe minute 15, 20 to minute 45. But again, I don't think you guys really threatened too much. It wasn't like you guys were really opening us up. Again, Gabriel is at fault for another goal. Second week in a row now, or even third week in a row. I'm just trying to think back. Because that's the Tottenham, the second week in a row because he gave that penalty away against Tottenham, and I think there might have been another incident a little bit or two incidents earlier in the season where he gave away a goal as well. So yeah, I don't know, he seems like one of those defenders that likes to live or defend on a knife's edge. So like you'll see those kinds of incidents, but at the same time you'll see moments of brilliant defending. But like as an Arsenal fan or even as a neutral, if I was a coach, I'd rather him not have any brilliant moments and not have any incident moments and just be consistently boring. That's what I'd want as a coach. So yeah, but then I'm trying to also rewind it back in my head. Like the ball was sort of like it was sort of flicked out of reach, and I can't really. Would you really say that he's like totally at fault for the goal? Because like he tried to get to it, but he outstretched himself from memory, but like he just didn't get to it.
It's a tough one because you're sort of taught if you can't control your clearance, if you're going up for a header and you don't think you can get there properly, you sort of just start retreating anyway and let it go, because you don't know where you're going to flick it on. Particularly, I play midfield, so particularly as a midfielder, you don't want to flick anything in behind your defence. But at the same time, if he lets that ball bounce and Liverpool create a chance or create a goal, he's made a mistake anyway. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't in that position. Maybe it's, I haven't completely looked back, but maybe it's just getting on the half turn quicker, particularly when Trent's receiving the ball, because he's going to look for something in behind. So you've got to be maybe just a split second quicker to anticipate that so that you get into position to just put it out for a throw. It's not an egregious mistake, but it's another, like you say, another mistake from a player who my assessment is that he's just not very good. He's good, but he's not very good. So like I keep saying, if you want to win the Premier League, if you want to go deep into Champions Leagues, he needs to be third choice at best at the club. And particularly when you look at his centre-back partnership, his partner, who I think is in that mould of a little bit all action, definitely with the physicality he has. I think you need a really stable partner next to him. So at the moment, we can see a little bit of those inconsistencies in terms of Saliba nearly repeated his trick for the own goal that he scored against, I can't remember
Leicester.
who, but yeah, running back towards his own goal. So apart from that, he's been a revelation, obviously. Yep. So I'm nitpicking at him a little bit, obviously, because I think he's He's very good, especially for his age.
I think he's
But yeah, just
21 or
bringing a
something.
more yeah, exactly. So just bringing a more calming presence in next to him, and like if you guys can find your Virgil van Dijk, then you
Well,
guys you guys
Saliba.
are already very good. Yeah, but I think if you can find someone next to Saliba, like I don't think it's going to take Saliba. I think 2-3 years to be at that level where you look at him and he's like that guy's the bedrock of a team that goes deep in Europe and challenges for the Premier League every single year. So it's either him and an upgrade on Gabriel, or yeah, well, an upgrade on Gabriel either way, I think, and you guys are looking good. And I think it's a type of centre back as well. It's not necessarily physical all action. It's someone to put next to Saliba for the coming years who can really help him and be a bit of a rock next to him.
Well, how many left-footed centre backs are there out there that are
No, it
like,
doesn't.
I
It
guess,
doesn't need to
available?
be left-footed.
Because
Like
the thing is,
Van Dijk plays on the left-hand
yeah.
side and he's right-footed. So
Well, I was going to mention like because Tommy Asso apparently played. He played as a third choice centre back at was it Bologna? Is that where he came from? Yeah,
I'm not sure.
he came from an Italian team though. But he knows how to play centre back, and that also leads into my point that it's also interesting that we pretty much played. Essentially
3.5.
we played 3.5 or even 4 centre backs against you guys. So that's interesting. But going on, I guess you mentioned the counter attack goal that we had on the stroke of halftime. That was egregious by you guys to not just see the game out, because like copying a goal right before halftime, especially in the manner that it fell as well. How was it? I think actually. I gotta also call out Van Dijk a little bit here, and it was very interesting. Someone made the point that the reason why I guess he's sort of laissez-faire or lackadaisical this season is because he might be going in a little bit half-heartedly to save himself for the World Cup, apparently, because he missed the Euros through injury. And that was someone's theory that's the reason why he's been not at his best, because he's just sort of downed himself a little bit to protect himself. And I can't remember if it was for our first or second goal where, from memory, like Van Dijk was just sort of like half-heartedly running across to try and shut down Martinelli. And I can't remember him ever doing that. I can always remember him like running full pelt to shut down that pass or that shot. Like I said, I can't remember if it was the first goal or the second one. But yeah, like he was just sort of running half-heartedly across the face of goal from his left centre-back position, which I found really strange. I'm not sure if you picked up on that as well. In all honesty, there was probably nothing he could really do, but I haven't seen, like going back to last season or the season before, and I haven't seen that sort of demeanor from him. That's all I'm saying. Like I expect, I've seen him try to always give his all to shut it down. That's all I'm saying.
No, I'll disagree a little bit. Even last season, I thought there was one that particularly sticks in my mind away at Chelsea. Pulisic picks up the ball on the right hand, Chelsea's left, our right hand sort of centre back role over there, and it's clear that Van Dijk's the only guy who from left centre back can go and affect that. And he didn't sprint. He jogged over, and Pulisic had all the time in the world to just slot the goal to make it 2-2 in that game. So I think Van Dijk's been prone to this. I think the last time we saw him at full tilt was probably 18-19, where we only lost one game all season. Even the season after, where we won the title, I still don't think he was as good as he was the season before. I think that 18-19 team in particular really helped him, because I thought our defensive structure was really good that season. And obviously, as a centre-back, you prefer having your structure. And that could be a little bit him organising around him a bit better. Whether he has gotten too big for his shoes and he thinks he can cover more than he can chew. Last season, I got that impression But last season we were a good team, and we were scoring the goals that even if he made a mistake, and also Allison was playing out of his mind last season. So even if he made a mistake, he'd be making the saves, or we'd be scoring enough that it didn't really matter in the end. But this season's a totally different game, and yeah, I think to your point, he needs to start looking like he's trying. It's all well and good looking like this Rolls Royce at the back who never has to break a sweat. But when you're conceding 3 goals, 2 goals, at least a goal every game, you need to start looking like you're trying, and you need to start holding those around you accountable and getting everyone into shape and really pushing yourself to be a better defender than what you have been this year. Defender, not player. I don't care about what you do on the ball. I don't care about how open you can leave the team because you think you can cover everything. Just be a better defender. Organize everyone around you. Do your work properly. Do it diligently. Don't amble to things. Sprint to everything. Challenge for everything. He's still a beast in all aerial duels. He nearly can't be beaten in aerial duels, but in terms of what he covers across the ground, he needs to do that quicker with more urgency and just show the rest of the team that this is what it's going to take defensively, because he hasn't been that leader this season. And it's disappointing to see from someone who's been truly world-class, probably the best in his position over recent seasons. So whether he's saving himself for the World Cup, I don't know.
It's a theory.
Whether the Dutch really have a chance to win the World Cup, I don't know either. I don't think they have enough in attacking areas, but that's a story for a different day. So it's a theory. It's one I hope isn't true, because his team really needs him right now. But yeah, this season, one thing can't be denied is this season he hasn't been at the level we've expected from him from recent seasons.
Well, it could also be that your midfield is really leaving your midfield and your front line is really leaving your defenders exposed, because it's not that same press coming from the forwards and the midfield that allows you guys to play a more of a high line and it allows your left and right backs to actually push forward. I can't remember Trent going past the halfway line, to be honest. Can you?
Well, to be fair to Trent as well, and this is
you guys are playing completely differently. That's all.
Oh yeah, we're playing that 4-2-3-1 now, which doubles into a 4-4-2 where we don't have the ball. So, but to be fair as well, he has Salah in front of him, and Salah, I know he's a goal-scoring winger, but he also likes to hold the width a lot. So there's not really that overlapping opportunity for Trent. Last season, if you remember it, he was underlapping a lot and getting into those sort of number 10 spaces. In this game, he couldn't. I thought it was a bit too much of a ding-dong game. There were too many threats from Arsenal for him to really want to go forward that much as well and leave Martinelli so free, especially after you see what he does in the first minute. And he's obviously had battles against Martinelli in the past, and you see what he's done in the past. But to be fair to Trent as well, I don't think he's really an overlapping fullback, to be fair. I know he's an attacking fullback, but he's not really an overlap. He more likes to get the ball in more central midfield spaces and pick passes.
Well,
so I'm not too concerned about that. But to your point, I'm concerned about why isn't Van Dijk organising those players in front of him, the midfield, and around him, the fullbacks, to give himself and the team a better solid base and more solidity.
I think it's so weird though. Like, you guys go from almost to from playing every single game last season and almost winning every single trophy that you can to this, and and it's not like suddenly it's not like it was a gradual decline because of the aging squad. It's almost like someone just flicked the switch and it's overnight, because the players are only a year older, and they're only a lot of them are 30, 31, 29. They're not. It's not like they're all 34, 35, 36. Because and we look around the league and also around Europe. You got Modric, who's yes, he's playing in Spain, but he's 37. Benzema's 34, I think. De Bruyne is 31. Some of that City midfield is already 29, 30 as well. So it's really strange for them to what looks like to just suddenly run out of legs. and not have that that pressing mentality anymore. Maybe it's a mentality thing rather than a fitness thing.
Well, I think if you're going to compare us to City, which is probably the most ample, the best comparison, but I think that the style of play doesn't help what you want to do for sustainability. If you want to run like that and be maniacs like that and have less control over a game like we did last season, I think eventually you'll go when it drops off 1-2%, and it's probably been more than that this season, but if it does drop off just that little bit, you're not the same team anymore. Whereas Man City, they almost beat teams already because teams know they're going to be pushed back. And to be fair, when teams haven't been pushed back this season, namely Newcastle at St James's Park, they've given City a really good game, and maybe that's where you can exploit the fact that they're not the youngest. But to be fair to most of those City players, apart from De Bruyne, they're all, if it's not Haaland, the rest are all coming into their primes. I mean, you look at João Cancelo, late 20s, Bernardo Silva, same. Haaland's a beast, we know that.
Rodri is
Grealish,
like 25, 26.
yeah, Rodri, yeah, exactly.
Grealish,
They're
26.
all coming into their
yeah.
they're all coming into their primes, really. And maybe Liverpool are a little bit on the other side of that. But you're right. The profile of those squads are players who are around that age in key positions. But yeah, Liverpool's style means that I just think it's not as sustainable. When you can have a lot of ball and a lot of territory and a lot of control over the game, I just find those games far less taxing than a game where you're playing up and down, you're leaving open spaces, you're having to track back at times, and then you're having to burst forward. I just think that's a far more taxing style and also open style. And when you're off at 2-3%, then it really shows compared to Man City, who can have control of the game. And if they're off at 2-3%, what shows is probably that they maybe only drew the game. They didn't win the game. That's the only difference, really, instead of losing games because they're so open. And they're just a better defensive side as well, City. All in all. Same with Arsenal as well.
Yeah. But moving on to the second half, in all honesty, besides your goal, which I feel like a fantastic run by Firmino to actually lose Saliba, and Saliba I think was a little. I think that was more inexperience than naivety, because he's only 21.
He did that at Old Trafford as well for the Rashford goal. He sort of gets stopped in a position and he's a little square, and then the ball goes in behind.
but like fantastic run by Firmino. Like, that was excellent. And
good ball from Jota as well.
And and then the finish as well, like to put it into the inside side netting. Like full credit to the play, like to Liverpool players for that passage of play. But besides that, can you really remember any other threats that you guys created or posed in that half, besides maybe in like the 90th minute when you guys were trying to get that last minute goal?
No, second half felt like we were a little bit doomed. We felt a bit flat from what happened on half time, and then obviously you'd feel a bit flat from already losing Luis Diaz, and then you've also go in at half time and Trent says that he can't go on. So I just thought we felt a little bit doomed throughout that second half, and Arsenal took full advantage and took control of the game again, because you're right, we didn't really have passages, we didn't have moments in the second half like we did in the first half. We didn't have the same energy, and we weren't creating anything bar the goal.
But also that, like, it felt like Arsenal took control of the game as well, like, and they created like quite a lot of chances as well. Like there was some chances where you're like, okay, this is like this should be a goal. And then I remember that there was this one chance where Odegaard pretty much like had an open shot, like maybe from 13 yards out directly in front of goal, and he passed it into. I think the ball got stuck like under his feet, and he pretty much passed it to Alisson. He could have just absolutely like put his foot through that, which you would have expected him to do, or like he could have slipped Saka through. because Saka was running on just on his right hand side as well. So like that should have been, that was gilt edge. I feel like that opportunity, and there was a couple other chances as well in that half where we really should have put the game to bed before the penalty. And yeah, like
well, I was just
go on.
I was just going to say, one thing is Odegaard needs to add that to his game if he's got to be world class. His finishing is quite diabolical at times, and sometimes
it's 50-50. It feels like.
Yeah, it's not just the finishing, but I would have been disappointed if he passed it to Saka, because I've seen him do that a lot. I've seen him do that a lot where he passes up great chances to pass the ball. And I'd just rather see him. Look, he's on the edge of the box straight in front of goal. He just should do better, I think, with the chance. I wouldn't criticize him for not passing. But he should just.
The thing is, Tsimikas was coming in to close him down on the right, and Saka was coming into that space. It wasn't. But the thing is, it wasn't like there was just a small little corridor of space for him to slip the ball through. Like there was at least a good 7-8 meters of space between Tsimikas and Virgil for him to put the ball through to Saka, and Saka would have, if he put it through nicely enough, Saka would have opened up his body and put it in with his left, because that's the way it looked like that was the way that he was sort of running in on the ball, so he would have put it in on his stronger foot. So it looked like, again, we have the benefit of watching the game from almost like not bird's eye, but like that from the view that we get. It's always different on the pitch. Sometimes you don't see those as a player, because it's like, I guess, in your peripheral vision and a little bit behind you. But he should have done better, 100%, on that. But yeah, like I said, it just felt like in the second half, Arsenal took control of the game. They were pressing the issue. What you said,
I was gonna say for the penalty as well. It came after like a spell of like a minute of intense pressure.
Yeah.
So like it could be just a bit of the dam finally broke with a bit of help, but that was after 2 or 3 passages of just wave into the box. Yeah.
On the penalty, I'll try to take a neutral stance on this one. I'll try to play devil's advocate. It's similar to that how I mentioned the handball decision. I can completely see why it was given. And if it wasn't given, I would have understood it. I probably am leaning a little bit more to the softer side of it. But I've seen like as soft penalties given, especially to, for instance, to Salah, like in previous seasons. I've seen him go down on those kind of touches, or even softer touches. Yes, Thiago wasn't kicking through. It looked like he was trying to not necessarily touch it with his toe, like just to sort of poke it away. It looked like he was trying to maybe like kick from down and up rather than like kick left to right, if you get me. So like there wasn't, because I think he might have caught I need to see it, I guess in slow-mo. I think he might have caught the underside of Jesus's studs, like the backside of his studs, because he was kicking from down to up, if I'm not mistaken. So he didn't get any of the ball. He got the player's foot first. You mentioned the ball just went away into no man's land. Well, the ball's going to go away into no man's land because the player has his foot kicked. So, I'm not sure whether Jesus was trying to kick it first time or whether he was trying to control it and then kick it. But regardless, he had his foot kicked first. So I can see why it was given. Yes, it might have been soft, but there's been soft penalties given this season and in previous seasons gone past. So, yeah, like I said, it's probably one of those maybe slightly subjective ones. Maybe a different ref wouldn't have given it. Maybe a different ref in a different game as well wouldn't have given it. Like maybe it wouldn't have been given in an Arsenal Bournemouth or Nottingham Leicester or something like that. Like maybe in a completely different game it wouldn't have been given. Maybe Michael Oliver does want to, I guess, slightly have his name in the headlines. Maybe, who knows? there was
What it
also
felt like to me.
who knows.
What it felt like to me. I just think I used to like Michael Oliver, but I think he's a bit of a hero. He's a bit of a hero ref nowadays. I think he wants a bit Howard Webbish back in the day.
Well, with some of these refs retiring, I guess we need a new ref to take that hero ref mantle. Because Howard Webb retired. There was another. Was it Mike Dean? He retired as well at the end of last season.
Mike Dean. I always liked Mike Dean.
He was a little bit iffy. But like I said, I can see why it was given. VAR, and that's another thing. Like you have, is it one ref or two refs in that are on VAR?
I think it's just one.
But it's one ref, but I think it's a team that overview it because they obviously need to work on the cameras and all that stuff. So like you have the ref on the field and then also the VAR ref that both agree that it is a penalty. So there's two referees that are agreeing with the decision, and like the ref that has multiple angles and the benefit of slow-mo, even he's not saying, oh, you got this wrong. So that's two refs that are saying he got it right. But yeah, you have former players, even strikers like Ian Wright saying, who's like one of the biggest Arsenal fans besides like Thierry Henry probably, that are saying it wasn't a penalty and it was on the softer side. Also, we'll get into this a little bit. Apparently, there was a little bit of controversy as well with that little heated exchange between Gabriel and Henderson. I heard that there might have been a little bit of racism there, so Henderson might be facing potentially some time off if he's found guilty. So there's a little bit of a story there. Apparently that there's going to be information obviously released in the coming days, but nothing yet. So there could be even more grief for you guys. But if Henderson does get suspended for a couple of games, will he be that missed? Because he hasn't been that great for you guys. But again, you have injuries to Luis Diaz, you have injuries to Robertson as well, I believe, and now Trent. Thiago's sort of in and out. He's returned, but he's always an iffy one. You don't ever know when he's going to get injured again. And now Henderson might be facing a suspension, possibly. So even more woes potentially for you guys. Yeah,
definitely. Especially, I know he hasn't been good this season, but he's another body in midfield, which we just don't have at the moment. So, if that plays out like that, that's got to be just another shit thing to happen in this season. I don't know if you wanted to talk about this game until next Tuesday. You probably do, but I'm about ready to move on from this.
I want to finish up. You mentioned on the balance of it, if there was going to be one team that deserved to win, it was Arsenal. And if draws didn't, and like I was thinking about this earlier, if draws didn't exist in football, Arsenal definitely deserve to win. But because they do, I'd still lean more towards an Arsenal win. Probably like 60% Arsenal win, 40% draw, I guess. It wasn't 50-50 draw win, but I definitely don't think you guys deserve to win. So I think it's 0% Liverpool win, maybe 40% draw, 60% Arsenal win on the basis of the whole 90 minutes.
Yeah, I'd go with that. I was in my head, my number was 55-45 Arsenal win draw.
Close enough.
Yeah, I'd go with 60-40. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But what game's coming up next Tuesday? I haven't looked at the fixture list.
No, I was just we got Liverpool City on the weekend, so that's another one that. Thank God you're not a City supporter, but.
Why'd you mention
because
Tuesday?
We've done 50 minutes on Arsenal Liverpool. I'm like, do you want to keep talking until next Tuesday?
Well, I think we've covered up pretty much everything. I know. Gomez did do a lot better against Martinelli than Trent, though.
Defensively, he did well when he came on as a right back. Yeah.
Credit to Gomez, and I don't know, maybe a different style of left wing might give him trouble though. So who knows whether he's a solution or just anyway. We'll see how Klopp, I guess, tinkers with the squad considering there's so many injuries. So yeah. Anyway.
That was definitely a positive though that I forgot to mention. So,
yeah.
There's a few positives there, but
all in all, there was. Fuck. I know we should. I know we really need to move on, but there was one other thing that I believe you guys slightly got away with, and that was the Tsimikas elbow on Jesus. I've seen red cards given for those. So
I don't even remember
it wasn't like it was a direct elbow into Jesus's nose or mouth. Because Tsimikas was trying to get in front of him, and then he jostled and obviously rose his arm. Like I said, I've seen red cards given for those types of incidences. And considering there wasn't even a free kick or even a yellow card given, I found that really strange. But you guys gave possession back to us, so that was really weird.
Was that the one where we thought Jesus was knocked out?
Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah, they never on my broadcast. They never showed the replay.
They showed the replay.
Yeah.
I
never saw it.
But yeah, like I said, I've seen refs go back to that and give red cards for those elbows to the face. It probably wasn't intentional, but like I said, I've seen them given. So,
well, just before we go off that topic and transition into the next one, I'm not speaking on that incident in particular because, like I said, I haven't seen it. But what must stop is this bullshit the referees think that anytime there's contact to the face by a player shielding the ball, that they have to give a free kick to the defensive player every time. The amount of times, particularly in La Liga, Serie A, pretty much those two leagues are really bad at it. As soon as a defender goes in to defend the ball, and when you just trying to shield them off.
Yeah.
Particularly in football where you have a smaller player and a taller player, and they get a little bit of contact from maybe the tricep or even the hand to the face, and they'll go down like they've been shot, and they'll get the free kick and a yellow card for the opponent every time. And for me, it's just referees need to stop awarding that, because the amount of times I see players go in, try and win the ball, and they get really tight to the attacking player. What else is the attacking player meant to do? Are you meant to run with your hands by your side so that you don't hit it? Well, that's not how you run. What are you meant to do in that situation? Referees just need to show some common sense and stop giving free kicks for that shit.
No,
it's really annoying to see.
I 100% agree on that, and I haven't been on the receiving end of yellow cards, but how I mentioned that I hit my growth spurt early. So I was always coming up in 13s, 14s, 15s. I was always coming up against smaller players. So my elbows was always around their shoulder or their head. So yeah, I've been, I guess I've experienced it at junior level. So yeah, I reckon it's complete bullshit, and like you said, a lot of them they're getting the slightest bit of contact with the tricep, and then they go down like they've been shot. This is where I reckon VAR should intervene and be no, it's not a yellow. This is the player trying to deceive you. Book the player trying to deceive you.
Yeah. And I think even for the Jesus penalty, is there a way where it's if there's more contact, is there a way to say, all right, that's a penalty, but you've also dived. I'm going to give you a yellow card for your bullshit reaction. There's been so many of that. I touched on the Di Maria one weeks ago, where I was just you've just got Di Maria sent off because of your bullshit. I know he shouldn't have done what he did, but your bullshit reaction has just been I would have just been all right, you can get sent off too. If you want to play less players, then you can go as well. I fucking hate simulation, man. It's just ridiculous. And just because something's a foul doesn't mean the attacking player didn't also simulate the contact.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. You have those incidents where, there is a foul and the player tries to keep his feet, and by keeping his feet,
Yeah.
he ends up losing his momentum or whatever, and then you lose the chance. So it's better to actually just go down, and then
I know.
but then when
Yeah, I know.
when you actually go down, because you're going down on purpose, it looks like a dive. So there's two arguments, I guess, to that side of things, and like I'll give you like a personal one. Like 3 weeks ago, like when I was playing, like I took it past the player on my left hand side, and like he put his foot across my whole body, and like he actually like sort of dragged me a little bit, but because I'm a fat bastard, I pushed him off to the to the side a little. But because I spent that energy and that time pushing him off and trying to regain my balance, I lost possession of the ball, and the ball was cleared, and then so the ref gave advantage, but then I lost the ball within like 2 seconds of regaining advantage, and then he just played it on. Like he didn't even. It's like, what the hell are you doing? Like yeah. So bullshit refereeing, even at like non-league level here in Croatia. Bullshit refereeing in the Premier League and La Liga. So like, just because these guys are getting paid thousands of dollars per game at the highest level does not. They're refereeing at pretty much the same standard that you're getting here in these like regional leagues and shit like that. So it's amazing. That's all I'll say.
I know. Yeah, they need to take more onus, and I totally agree with that. Having to keep your feet. If you try to keep your feet, you don't get the decision. It's like, what kind of bullshit is that? Some referees come out and actually say, like, if you're not going to fall to the floor, I'm not going to give it. It's like, what the fuck kind of a message is that? If it's a foul, it's a foul.
Oh yeah.
But anyway,
I was also held on a corner. Like I was literally held on a corner, and then I've asked the ref, like, you saw that he was holding me, right? He's like, yeah, I saw. I'm like, all right, so should I have gone down? He's like, yes. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Don't encourage that. Anyway, before we launch into a 30-minute tirade on referees, VAR,
especially me playing here, because if one of these guys does catch wind of this pod and like he sees it, then who knows, maybe he like has an agenda against me. So maybe I should just be like Mourinho, like no comment, no comment. I have nothing to say.
Well, I'm kind of hoping that they do catch wind of this pod. Let's get the viewers up. More likes and subscribes, please.
Yeah, and then I end up getting like booked for bullshit decisions and stuff. Because like I said, yeah. Anyway, moving on. I'm gonna let you take over the pod and lead us into the promised land.
Yeah, so I was thinking we'll just do a little section here to finish off that will sort of tie in all the reviews from anything noteworthy. Anything else noteworthy that we saw on the weekend, and probably lead into a little bit of the previews. We could tie it all into this one section for the Champions League, but it was that idea I had a couple of pods ago about. I think we should do we'll do a draft, so we'll take one pick each, and we'll see how we're going for a time, but the idea is to maybe create a 16-team league of the best teams that we've seen this season, and our best is subjective, obviously. I think, obviously, your performance, your results should be probably the main factor so far, although we are only a quarter of the way in, so maybe they'll change in coming weeks. But also entertainment factor, like who have you enjoyed watching, who has the most exciting players, who, for your eye, plays the best football, even if maybe they haven't been getting results. So, and it'll just be interesting to see what teams we come up with to go into a 16-team league from around Europe, and where the majority of our teams come from. I know you're a bit more Premier League centric in what you've been watching, but now you've got all the football you've been able to watch at least a little bit more from around Europe. So, yeah, I'll let you go first with the first pick, and then we'll just touch on the teams as we go.
I don't know if I should. I'll start with teams that I guess that aren't Premier League based, so that way I can get those ones, I guess, out of the way. The first team, I reckon it should be Napoli.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, like I've watched a couple of their games, and like they've really impressed me. I really like the way they play. Like it's sort of, I don't know. Like I guess it's more because like you have these teams that like they're more attacking based. They like to press. They like to push forward. So like and obviously that's more attractive to the eye than like say a Tottenham or a Crystal Palace or something like that. That like to sit back, like to play on the counter, like to take advantage of the fact that they have like one or two or three front men that are like pacey or really skillful. Whereas like this is like the whole team. Pushes forward, the whole team presses, and I guess they're playing that, modern sort of style that most of the top teams are playing or trying to play.
Modern for Italy, no doubt.
Yeah. So I'll give it. I'm definitely giving them the first draft pick.
Top of both their Champions League group and Serie A.
And destroying teams along the way.
Yeah, that's the thing. They are destroying teams.
Yeah.
Obviously, 6-1 against Ajax, 4-1 against Cremonese, even though that scoreline sort of flattered them on the weekend to injury time goals. But they still get 4 goals because they got so much attacking talent. And let's not forget, since the Liverpool game in the Champions League, they've been without their talismanic striker, Victor Osimhen.
Yeah.
So they've been doing this with Giovanni Simeone scoring goals, Raspadores playing like a mini Sergio Aguero, Kvaratskhelia. I mean, you'll hear that name over. He's 21 as well. Kim Min-jae at the back has been unbelievable. Alex Merritt in goal. Giovanni Di Lorenzo needs a massive mention, the captain. If João Cancelo ever went back to being an out-and-out right back, then he'd be the best right back in the world. But on season's form, maybe Di Lorenzo is the best right back in the world. I'm really impressed by how he's added more attacking potency to his game. He's improving, even though he's at an older age, which is great. I don't think he's above 30, but
he's been there a while, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has been there a while. I always thought he's been a very good defender for years, but now he's actually adding something going forward as well. And he's been nothing short of spectacular when you add that to Anguissa in the midfield, Zielinski, who's been good for a number of years. Lobotka is actually a really good technical holding midfielder. Yeah, for excitement, they're definitely my number one. They're probably not my best team because I'll take the next pick. And the best team in Europe for me has been Manchester City. What more can we say on them? They get another win. It looked like Haaland might not score, but he gets the 4th one. How easy he makes those finishers look, and the power he gets on those side foots for cutbacks is unbelievable. That team is unbelievable. They're a team that have a different profile to maybe some of the other teams like Arsenal and Napoli that we'll mention in terms of their age. They're more players in their prime between 25 and 30, which is great for them this season. But then they've also got the sprinkling of youth with Foden, Haaland. Even Ruben Diaz is only 25. And when you look at a centre-back, they can play top-level football to about 32. So for me, in terms of everything, I know we're not necessarily excited by them anymore because we've seen them for so many years. But, I mean, it's hard not to get excited by them because they've added Erling Haaland, who is scoring a ridiculous amount of goals and is already on 20, I think, for the season already. It's just unbelievable for me. I don't know if there's ever been a gap like this between the best team and the rest because I just think City are clearly the best team in Europe. It's barely even a discussion for me. But I like that you went with Napoli first. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, well, I'm going to try to get the non-EPL teams out of the way since I haven't, like I said, or like you said, I'm probably more EPL centric or focused. So I'm going to try to get the ones that I've watched from the other leagues. My next one would be AC Milan. I have liked how they've played in the games that I've watched them. I really do like I think I'm starting to like see what you see in Theo Hernandez.
How much of a difference did he make for that Juve game?
Massive. And Lau looked better as well because of him.
Yeah.
And I really liked Tonali. I really like him. I wouldn't mind having him or a player like him at Arsenal in that midfield. But the thing is, because that Arsenal midfield is like playing so well together right now, I'm not sure if adding another player would disrupt it, or it would be hard to add to it because it's now chemistry based as well, that midfield. So, but I would love to have him there. Like it would be an excellent addition or backup to like, I think probably to Xhaka, not to Ødegaard. But yeah, AC Milan would be my next one.
Yeah, we just got to see if this Xhaka thing is real. So far this season, it's been very good, but he needs to carry it out for a whole season, obviously. But he's been unbelievable.
Well, even
transformation.
Even last season,
he was pretty good towards the end.
Towards the end, yeah. Like the second half, once he got rid of once he got the red cards out of his game.
I will say, for me, Tonali's a bit better a player.
He's younger as well.
20. He's 22. So yeah, I'm totally with you with their star man. You could throw Mike Mignon, who was injured for the Juve game, in there as well. I guess this is a good chance to touch on that big derby from Italy. And it's funny because I'll look at the flip side first. I don't even know if they'll make our top 16, but for Juve, the two games where I've actually looked at the team sheet and thought, you know what, this kind of makes sense, has been the PSG game away, where they played 3-5 or 5-3-2. And this game, actually, in a 4-4-2 with out-and-out wingers, I looked at the team sheet, I'm like, I don't like Rabiot, but the rest of those players, look, they make sense. You've got sort of somewhat Serbia-like, you've got the two physical strikers in Milik and Vlahovic up front, and then you've got two out-and-out wingers in Cuadrado and Kostic who should look to get service into the box for those two. So, and Locatelli's a pretty good player in midfield for them. Obviously, they're still missing Chiesa, which is huge. But yeah, I thought the whole team of Juve actually made sense for this game. And yet again, they didn't do too much because I think AC Milan just have a far superior team, even with the absences of Mike Mignon, Davide Calabria at right back, who's the captain as well. And before, I think the rest of his year is over. He got something serious. I don't know if it's season or just year, but he was looking pretty good at right back as well, very solid. I was impressed by what Pioli did in this game in terms of he split Tomori and Kalulu up. He played Kalulu as a right back and played a more defensive centre back next to Tomori, which really helped those two because those two always want to come into the midfield areas and press, and they want to be tight to their men. So having a sort of sweeper, so to speak, in between them, I think really helped them. And then obviously, as we touched on, having Theo Hernandez back, who is the engine. He plays as a left back, but his role in the team is more of a central midfielder in terms of what he creates for the team, the engine he provides. And unlike Trent, he can do his defensive work. So he's just unbelievable. Tonali, like you said. And Giroud just keeps going and going. And Brahim Diaz scored a wonder goal in that game. He's a bit hit and miss, but on that occasion, he was very hit. So I think AC Milan's maybe a little high on the list, but they were definitely going to make it. Probably not top tier, but yeah, you're trying to get rid of.
Well, yeah, I'm not doing it in any particular order. Like, if you want to reorder them at the end, we probably could.
Yeah, I thought we were doing order, but that's all good.
No, I'm just doing mentions at the moment, and then we can reorder them maybe at the end.
Yeah, so my next team will be Real Madrid because
I'm noting these down.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
They got a 1-0 win on the weekend without Karim Benzema. I hope that he was just being rested, but I think Rodrigo pops up with the goal. Their young talent up front is unbelievable. Vinicius is one of very few players that I was doing this list, and this will be in coming pods, but one of very few players that I look at and I say he's world class. The way he's playing, A, form, and what he's already achieved in the game, B, and how big a part of what he achieved in the game was. For me, at the ripe age of I think he's 22, he's already world class for me, maybe 23. So he's such an exciting player. Real Madrid with Tchouaméni. I couldn't believe this when I was doing the research, but Camavinga's only 19. I knew he was young, but I didn't know he was 19 young. Tchouaméni's also very young. But then you look at the sprinkle of experience that they have with, I know Courtois didn't play on the weekend, but normally he's back. He's either a world-class goalkeeper or very close to it. David Alaba is just fantastic. I think he's only 29 or 30 as well, so he's still got a few years of playing in a defensive position. Carvajal continues to go and go. I know he's not the most aesthetically pleasing, but he always fulfills a role. Rudiger's somewhat slotted in seamlessly to Real Madrid, and they just keep rolling. So, like I said, if they still had Casemiro, they would be my favourites to repeat in the Champions League. We still have the question mark of how Tchouaméni deals with the big stage, but to be fair, we still have the question mark of how Haaland deals with the big stage. So those two teams, I think, are right up there in the mix of being the best in Europe, and yeah, Real Madrid comfortably make this list.
See, I could mention a couple of teams from outside EPL, but I'm still not. See, like, what are we necessarily basing this on? Like, how they've started the season, how they're actually playing, or like a combination of multiple factors? Like,
yeah, just a combination. Just who you think the best teams are for everything, for watchability, for results, how they've started the season. Yeah, because like just on this season, obviously.
Yeah, because for instance, like PSG and Barca are. You're gonna have to put them in just because of who they are, definitely. Who they have. But like, in terms of like when I've actually watched them play, I haven't been too impressed, to be honest. So like they're not really high on the attractability scale. So they're obviously gonna make it in there, but.
Well, let's do that now. I'll put them both in, and we'll do those teams now because unspectacular results on the weekend. There wasn't too much to touch on.
Do you want to chuck Bayern in there as well? Because again,
Bayern we do have something to touch on. So
yeah,
we'll just do these two, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Bayern. Barca will know more after what we see in midweek because how high they are meant to be on this list depends on what happens against Inter for me and whether they get out of that group. But the stunning stat with Barcelona is we've played, a quarter of the La Liga season, 1 goal conceded. And this is a team that on the weekend used Marcos Alonso as one of 2 centre-backs. One of 2 centre-backs. I thought that was madness, but teams, I don't know, Barca play so solid that teams just don't really threaten them. I think teams are so worried about Gavi and Pedri in the midfield, and Gavi had another sensational game and Pedri scored the goal. They're so worried about those two that they can't really... It's kind of like what we saw with Man City, particularly maybe last season or 2 seasons ago, where De Bruyne in particular loves making those runs in the channels, and Gavi and Pedri do a lot of that as well. I think Pedri's multifaceted in that he can also control a game, drop deeper, pick up the ball in spaces. He's just an unbelievable talent. But yeah, their wide players keep a lot of width, and then their central midfielders run so that the back four is always intact. I think we talked about this last season. But the back four and the holding midfielder, they're always just solid. There's no overlapping from fullbacks. There's no adventurous play from defenders. It's just, let's be solid. These players are behind the ball. These players are in front of the ball. It's very basic roles for the players they have at the moment. So that's why I probably agree with you on watchability. They haven't been fantastic, but that defensive record is something else this season. And when you have the main man in Lewandowski, who is maybe the best player in the world at the moment because he's banging in so many goals, and he has the reputation behind him as well, and he looks, like we said, refocused. They're a scary proposition, but a lot hinges on what happens against Inter in this midweek.
Yeah, because if they lose to Inter, they're down to the Europa League. I'm pretty sure that's a guarantee. It would look
that way unless Inter capitulate, but yeah.
Yeah, because then what? Barca would have 3 points, Inter would have 9 after 4 games. Yeah. So Barca would have to beat Bayern. They'd have to beat...
Well, they would be... They actually, no, you're right. They would just be in the Euro... Yeah.
Because they lose. Yeah. Because they're head-to-head. Yeah. They can't finish above them. So yeah, that's actually going to be really interesting if they lose. If they draw, then it's going to be really tough for them because you would expect Inter to pick up points against Pilsen, and you expect Bayern to beat both of them.
It depends how Bayern play and what team they play, because they should be in by the time they play one of those, whoever they have on the last match day.
Yeah, they're essentially gonna qualify tomorrow, because they tomorrow or Wednesday, because they're playing against Pilsen. So that's pretty much a done deal that they're qualifying. So, but then the thing is, because they're, if you go into German stereotypes, I don't think they're really known for fielding lesser teams just because they've secured safe passage or qualification. Like, they want to essentially win every game. So then they're not really known for it like maybe like the English teams are or the Spanish teams. So I wouldn't expect them to necessarily field a weaker lineup for the Barca and Inter games, especially not for the Barca one, because there's that whole like meme about like, Bayern always destroy or always beat Barca. So they have that reputation or that tradition, I guess, of always beating Barca. So I think Barca are going to have a hard time against Bayern. Maybe Italy don't face the sword, but who knows about that. But are we does that mean we're chucking Bayern in there as well?
I don't think there's much to say on PSG. They make the list, obviously. They got one of the most frightening front threes in the world. It's really good to see Neymar playing to the level he is. I just hope that we get to see it for the whole season, because there's still question marks on what does Neymar look like when he comes back from the World Cup and after he's sort of blown his wad at the World Cup, because it's his last hurrah in terms of that competition, and it is the be all and end all, as you'd expect for a Brazilian. Same for Messi as well, but Messi's, compared to what we saw last season from Messi, he's rejuvenated. He looks really good, and Mbappe, who I'm so high on, obviously,
I think Messi
revolutionary.
I think Messi picked up an injury, didn't he?
Did he? I
think he did last weekend or something. Or
well, that would make sense, because they went into the game against Reims on the weekend with only Mbappe starting of those three. And once I saw the team sheet, I'm like, I don't really want to watch this anymore. The squad depth worries me in terms of how far they could go in the Champions League. They didn't look very impressive. Ramos picked up a red card in that game as well, and they only drew 0-0. So, but like you look at the defense and the attack in particular, very, very, very good in those areas. But the midfield just means that they can't control games. So in terms of watchability and in terms of domination on games, they definitely lack in that category. But I expect them to, and I know we've argued about this many times, but they definitely deserve to be in the top tier of European teams for what they have in those two key units in defense and attack. And look, they're playing. The good thing about them, and I touched on this at the start of the season, they're all there at the moment. We haven't had players wandering off yet. We haven't had any of that. Well, I know we have those ego clashes, but you get them at any big club, especially a club with the egos that this club has. So I think that's a positive, and we'll just see how the season pans out, because we'll judge them after the World Cup, really, PSG. But so far, so good for them, I think.
Yeah, well,
if you want to move on to Bayern, unless you want to do your PSG spiel.
No, like I've already said, I'm not impressed with them. I think they're really lacking in the midfield. Like they're top and bottom or back heavy. Like they have so many great defenders. They have so many great forwards. Actually, no, they don't really have so many great forwards. They have 3 great forwards.
Yeah.
The rest of them, I don't know. Who are the backups?
Sarabia and Soler played on the weekend.
Yeah. Has Draxler left?
Yeah, I think he has.
Yeah. It's such a shame about him. Like he looked like he was going to be like a breakout star like years and years ago, but never got time at PSG. But yeah, like they have just like an awesome front line, an awesome back line, but the midfield just sucks balls. Like seriously,
expert opinion.
it's literally horrible. And like I'm still like I know everyone. I don't doubt the quality that Verratti has, or Verratti, how you pronounce his name. But like I've already said this, I don't trust his mentality. He always picks up a yellow, and in the big games, he generally picks up a red as well. So he's not someone you can exactly hang your hat on or rely on to get you through the big games. I know he won the Euro, but that Italy performance as a team was what won them, not was what won them the Euros, not Verratti's outstanding performance in the midfield. So, and had they have faced any sort of adversity during that run, he would have been the first one to pick up a red card in those games. Like, and yeah, so I'm not too hot on PSG. But
should we move to Bayern then?
Bayern, man, they look like they were cruising to a victory against Dortmund, and then it just fell apart. Red card in the final, in the 80th minute or 85th minute, I believe.
It was later than that. I think it was the 89th. Yeah.
But yeah, like, and then a goal in like the 91st or 92nd minute or something like that as well, like to get the equalizer from Dortmund. That was really strange to see them lose control of the game like that, because it just looked like they were. It didn't necessarily look like they were going to like score at will or at any point, but it just seemed like okay, we're in control. We're going to just see this one out. If we want to score a goal, we can kick it up into another gear, but we're just going to cruise along. It seemed like that, rather than like, let's just attack at will and score 5 or 6 goals and create as many chances as we want. It felt like, especially after the second goal came in, it was like, okay, let's get into cruise control. And then let's see what happens. If I'm not sure if you agree with that assessment or not.
Yeah, I thought at the start of the second half, I thought the first half was pretty even. I thought the atmosphere played a big part in Dortmund being able to hold their own against Bayern in this game. Being at home really helped. The start of the second half, though, I thought, yeah, that's the stage where you think Bayern could go on and just win this quite comfortably, and it looked that way when they were 2-0 up. And they get the second goal in particular is very soft. The first goal, even, it's not that powerful a shot from Goretzka into the corner either. Maybe the goalkeeper's unsighted, but the second one he's got to do better with. But then the Germans are big on XG, so they always show it at the end of the game. And Dortmund actually had a higher XG than Bayern in this game, because I guess when you factor in the fact that Sane goal really shouldn't have been a Sane goal, it should have saved it. And Dortmund really came on strong in the last at least 20 minutes attacking the yellow wall, and they probably got what they deserved for that, because that was the most dominant either team had been in the game. The big disappointment for me is you've spent 80 million on a defender. I don't know if he got injured. I don't think he did. But Matthias de Ligt's not on the pitch at the end of the game when you capitulate. Why have you paid 80 million for who should be a bedrock of your defence, the foundational piece of your defence, and he's not on the pitch when you have to weather this storm? And once again, the guy who is on the pitch is Upamecano. I can't.
De Ligt got taken off, didn't he?
Yeah, De Ligt got taken off. He did start the game. He was on a yellow card, so I wonder if that came in. But
maybe.
But if you've paid 80 million for a defender, surely you can trust him with a yellow card. I mean, unless he's injured, there's no reason for him to be coming off the pitch if he's meant to be the new key centre back in your team. And for me, if Bayern want to win the Champions League, he needs to be the key centre back. And I've said this from the start of the season. He needs to offer them a solid foundational piece for everyone to build on, because that is easily Bayern's biggest weakness. That's the defense, the heart of defense. Because you look at the fullbacks there. Davis in particular is fantastic. Pavard's hugely functional himself. The midfield now that you've got Goretzka and Kimmich didn't start the game.
No.
Sabitzer came off
Yeah.
at halftime. But when you do have Kimmich and Goretzka in there, look. I don't think the central midfield areas are particularly strong in world football at the moment. But those two are two of the best in the world. And then the attacking area, Musiala in particular is the guy that I always want to watch. He's so exciting. He looks a bit like evolutionary Thomas Muller for me. He's like a little bit technically better, but in terms of intelligence, like I see a lot of Thomas Muller like traits, and I don't think it's any surprise that because he gets to work with the guy day in day out. So what a great mentor and role model he has to show him how the rest of his career should be. The sky's the limit for him, as it is for so many of these young players that we have right now. But and Mane missed a big chance in this game. So earlier at the start of the season, well, like that was a 10-8 round for Mane over Salah. Well, I think that's evened up a lot more in recent weeks. Mane hasn't had the same impact he had at the start of his Bayern career. Salah hasn't picked it up either. We know that. But yeah, Bayern, a lot of question marks in recent weeks. And this, I think the 3 draws in a row followed by the loss in the Bundesliga, I wasn't too worried about that. This game actually worries me more than all of that combined because the way they just, in a big game, in their biggest game in the Bundesliga this season, without a doubt, they capitulated at the end and they conceded a late goal to Villarreal, which knocked them out of the Champions League. So it's looking maybe like old habits die hard. And you'd think for a game like this, they should be able to get themselves up and finish that job, but they just couldn't do it. And that's worrying.
Do you think that Nagelsmann could potentially be on the chopping block?
I wouldn't, because I still think the team is playing quite well. They're developing quite well, and they still look like a very good team when they play well. But I've mentioned a little bit, in terms of him, a little bit of arrogance. That creeps into the side. Bayern will always have arrogance, don't get me wrong, because it's Bayern Munich. They are the big dogs in Europe. But yeah, I just think for his age and what he has and hasn't accomplished in the game yet, he needs to tone that down a bit at times. But for me, he's still a really good young manager, and one that I think if you're going to invest in, if you're Bayern Munich, you've got to give him more time than you've given him so far. I know Tuchel's name's been banded out there, but I would stick with Nagelsmann until you can visibly see that he's lost the dressing room, which I don't think he has at this stage. I think they're still playing well enough. They just need to polish up these areas. And in terms of winning a Champions League, that's worrying. But for me, I don't think he's on the chopping block just yet.
Well, Tuchel is out there, but would Tuchel go to Bayern considering he coached Dortmund?
Yeah, I think he would. I don't think Tuchel.
He doesn't have any allegiances to Dortmund, does he? Like the way that Klopp did.
Yeah. No, I don't think he's that Klopp type character. I think the opportunity to work with some of the best players in the world, I think he'd jump on that.
Yeah, but Tuchel was only at Dortmund for 2 years, 3 years, whereas Klopp was there for 7. And I think Klopp helped.
Obviously accomplished a bit more than Tuchel.
And I think he helped them. He didn't help them in that debt period, but he sort of helped them get to where they are right now. So he definitely elevated their position or their in world football. But moving back onto our draft or our list, I think one more team, we're halfway there. Well, I'll go out there and put Arsenal in there. We've already, I think we've spoken about them enough. And right now, the best team in England, based on points, based on the ladder. Until they face Man City, we'll see how close that gap is. Because I would have liked to have seen this Arsenal team against Liverpool last season, because right now, when you map out the trajectories, Arsenal's on an upward trajectory, whereas Liverpool is on a downward trajectory. So, we played you at the perfect time for us. and you still gave us a game as well. So I'm curious to see how we're going to go in that City game, to see, like I said, where we are, how far off we are. But based on the eye test, based on results, I'd comfortably say we are up there among the best teams in Europe at the moment, based on form.
Yeah, I think I was going to say this is the perfect time for Arsenal to come into this list. I think those 7 teams that we've just mentioned are better than Arsenal, but only purely by the fact that all of those teams are in the Champions League this season. So we haven't got a chance to judge Arsenal when they have Champions League football week in, week out, then Premier League football. But yeah, that's the 8 for all intents.
But they have Europa League, and that's another thing.
No, I know, but it's not the same level. They get to rotate the whole team.
But hang on, I know that yes, they rotated pretty much the entire team. I think only Martinelli and Gabriel, and I think one other player may have played. Xhaka, I think, played. So 3 players out of that starting 11 played against Bodø/Glimt, I think.
Bodø/Glimt, yeah.
Yeah. So, but they played on Thursday, whereas Liverpool played on Wednesday, and both teams played at home as well, so they didn't have to travel to.
No, I'm not making excuses for this week, but I'm just saying until we get to judge them. Yeah,
I know, but they're still having to play to like a midweek, and albeit against a lesser opposition, but that also allows their squad to be rotated, and their players that maybe aren't up to that Liverpool or that Man City or that Tottenham standard just yet. It allows them to get experience, because like we've seen against Tottenham, like you're not playing Vieira yet, you're not playing Marquinhos yet, and these players look pretty good, and Nketiah's looked pretty decent as well, to be honest, but he's only in the Premier League, he's only getting like 10-15 minutes, whereas in these games he's getting almost a full 90, and I think in most of them, I think he may have got taken off in one of them, but yeah, like it allows these players that aren't yet up to the standard to get game time, whereas in the Champions League, I reckon we would run out of legs. We wouldn't be able to rotate at all.
Yeah, and that's just the question mark. That's why I think the other 7 that we've mentioned were mentioned before Arsenal. But in terms of football and how each are performing in the league, they definitely deserve to be in this top 8. No qualms there. And yeah, I agree with all your points about Europa League football, how it can be utilised to your advantage, even though a lot of big clubs have a snobby approach to Europa League. But it gives you that experience of playing midweek then weekend, even though you can rotate, but you still get that experience. So I think we need to loosen up on that snobby view of the Europa League. But now the top 8 have been established. This is where I think it gets interesting. We might only go to 12.
Hang on, just before we go on, I want to mention though, like, and I did mention it. I think it's actually a good thing, considering in our development. Like I've mentioned this, like I think it's a good thing that we've not necessarily attracting the best players and everything, but in our terms of our development, I think it's a good thing that we have Europa League this season as opposed to Champions League, because the 11 that played against Liverpool, they would be playing again tomorrow or Wednesday night. And players like Nketiah, Marquinhos, Pablo Vieira, they wouldn't be playing Champions League football. They wouldn't because they're not up to that level yet. So like I said, in terms of our development, it's probably going to be a blessing in disguise that we missed out on Champions League football this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, the rest of this list does get really interesting. So, I think maybe we should throw out some names there. My instinct is to go for 9th place, and I don't have that bigger sample size on it, but what I have said has been really impressive. But I think Benfica might be my 9th choice. I know they play in the Portuguese league, but I think they've only lost 1 game and won the rest of them. So they're dominating that competition. And also in what we've seen in the Champions League, they had to come through qualifying. They did that impressively. I can't remember who they came through. Might have been Dynamo Kiev. And then in the group stage, they've looked really good. Good young players, good experienced players as well. Rafa Silva. I thought Rafa Silva was a lot younger, but upon doing my research, he's pushing 30. Enzo Fernandez, who I think is a really good midfielder, might get a call up, should get a call up to the Argentine national squad for the World Cup. Whether he plays, that will be interesting to see. David Neres on the left hand side or the right hand side, formerly of Ajax, and Ramos up front. So I've been impressed by them. They look like an organised unit. They look like a team who should get out of the group above Juve in that group with PSG. And yeah, their record in the league, I know it's the Portuguese league, and also what they're doing in the Champions League, I think I'd put them 9th. So over to you for 10th.
I'm going to throw out a bogey team that I've watching a couple of their games. I've actually been quite, I guess, impressed, and I guess impressed with their progression. But I'm going to put Newcastle in there.
Yeah, I knew it. I was going to guess that before you said it. That's fair. They are up to 5th now, I believe, and they've only lost once all season.
Yeah, and they gave Man City a game, and I don't think they can necessarily be hard done by the fact that they drew. They could be hard done by the fact that they lost to Liverpool, especially in the 97th minute or whatever. But yeah, they gave both Liverpool and Man City a game, and they've been like putting other teams pretty much to the sword as well by the looks of it. And they seem to be progressing pretty well. So I think they could, if they continue along this path, I think they could secure a Europa League spot.
Yeah, so depending on how Liverpool in particular do. If Liverpool are out of the mix, then yeah, they should get into Europe this season because. Yeah,
who would it be? It would be City, Arsenal, Tottenham, top 3, and
Chelsea, United,
Chelsea
Liverpool.
4th.
That's 6 spots. If those 6 all play to what they should somewhat play,
7th gets Conference League, right?
On. Yeah, so they need one of those to fall out. But they might just get it on their own merit because they've had a really tough fixture list to start the season as well.
Well, do you think they beat United?
Well, that's got to be an interesting question and game. And if you're not going to use, I'll use them now just because we haven't talked about them yet. And I thought they had a really impressive win against Everton, but I probably wouldn't have put them in this order. But I'll put.
You're not putting them in the. You're not putting them in the list, are you? Are you serious?
Definitely.
Are you serious?
Probably. If I wanted to do it in order, I would have put Atalanta next, but I'll put Man United because
what is wrong with you?
What are they up to? They're 6th in the league now, or did they move above Newcastle with the win?
I'm not sure.
I think Lisandro Martinez has been impressive. I know I have my qualms about how he can fit into the Premier League, but ever since that Brentford game, he's been pretty good. Ever since Ten Hag swallowed his ego pill and sort of did things that made the team more successful. I think they've looked a much better unit. Rashford played exceptionally well this whole week. He played really well in the Europa League and played really well against Everton. Anthony scores another goal. I think that's 3-3 for him. Martial came back briefly. He looked all right. But then Ronaldo comes on, scores a goal. If they can get him back scoring and him a part of the system, a part of the front four, then they have a good chance of pushing for that top 4 this season. If Martial's out for a while, Casemiro, I thought on his debut was excellent. I know he made the mistake for the opening Everton goal, but I thought his presence was really good. He's not really a ball player, but he was looking to get on the ball a lot. But in particular, as we always say with Casemiro, the gaps he fills, the solidity he offers the midfield was fantastic. And Luke Shaw looked really good coming in for his first start of the season. So I know you're down on United, but I think they've played well. I think you see the patterns of play that they play, and ever since that start of the season, I think they've been a different team ever since Ten Hag's changed it up.
You're honestly putting United above Tottenham. I know Tottenham have looked like they don't look great, but they're getting results. But you're mentioning United before Tottenham.
No, I wouldn't. But you mentioned Newcastle before Tottenham, and I think Tottenham are a better team than Newcastle as well. So
I don't know. Newcastle look like they're playing better football, at least. So they're
maybe, or
higher on
maybe
the
it's just
attractiveness
more.
scale.
I honestly don't know because Tottenham still have players like Son and Kane who are delights to watch, and Bentancur, to be fair. So whether that's just our eyes just being like, oh, that's Newcastle, they shouldn't be playing this well, or whether they genuinely are better than Tottenham, I'm not prepared to say that yet because I still think I think Tottenham, it's a little bit, we expect more from them in terms of viewing, but they still are a pretty good side and their points tally this season. But if we were doing it in an order, yeah, definitely, I definitely wouldn't be putting United above Tottenham. But I just thought they had more, in terms of what we saw on the weekend, they had more to talk about than Tottenham. So I just wanted to touch on that scene as though we were at like an hour 35 into the pod and we hadn't talked about it.
But hang on, you're honestly putting United in the top. Is this the top 16 teams
No, but it's
in
not.
Europe, or
Yeah, in the top 16. Yeah, they would definitely be in the top 16. I don't know who you could
all of
mention.
Europe?
Who could you mention who would definitely be above United? Tottenham will do next.
I think Chelsea are better than United.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where Potter has his players together, but I think they've got more lucky results than United this season for sure.
But like that's two teams that are already better than United. You were going to mention
Tottenham are. I don't know about Chelsea. I wouldn't say Chelsea definitively, but Chelsea will probably get into the top 16 as well.
You were going to mention Atalanta.
Yeah, Atalanta would get in there for so far.
I'm not sure who else from the other leagues, but what are we up to at the moment?
We're up to 13.
Is that with United?
That's with United.
So if you add those three, Chelsea, Tottenham, and Atalanta, then that's 16. So United
we're up to 13 with them. I didn't put Chelsea in. We're up to 14 with Chelsea.
But no, so we're 13 with United, and then if we add Chelsea, Tottenham, and Atalanta, that's 16.
No. We're 13 with Tottenham and Atalanta and United. No Chelsea. So with Chelsea, it's 14.
So are we adding Tottenham and Atalanta in right now?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I don't know if you want to say any more about Tottenham. Another 1-0 win, surprise, surprise.
Against Brighton, yeah. But albeit would they? I don't know. It's hypothetical where they would have got that result with Potter there.
Well, I preferred what I saw from Tottenham in terms of playing a 5-3-2. I preferred an extra man in that midfield. I thought they looked. It's funny because you think 5-3-2 they've gone more negative. Well, I actually thought it allowed them to press the ball a little bit higher because they weren't constantly worried about their two central midfielders getting swamped in the midfield. I thought it allowed them to play a bit freer in terms of pressing the ball. And I thought they looked a lot more solid, but albeit it was still not a Tottenham that was swashbuckling and creating chances. But that's a good win away at Brighton, no doubt.
Now, before you went into the game, I just had every time I mention Graham Potter, I just especially when I say Potter, I always say it in my mind in the Draco Malfoy voice.
Yeah,
and so it's a shit name, but a good name as well, just because of that. But yeah, I don't know if you want to fill the last. What are we up to now? Is that 14?
I'll touch on Atalanta because they had a really important game against Udinese, a top of the table clash in Serie A actually on the weekend, and they like Bayern were cruising at 2-0 away at Udinese, but Udinese at home in particular they have this sort of I don't know what that Halloween character is called, the one who can't be killed, but. They have that sort of feel about them that at home they're just going to come back. They have this energy about them, and they were able to come back in the last 20 minutes. It was much a mirror image of Bayern Dortmund. In Atalanta were pretty much controlling the game for me. Luis Muriel was playing really well. Hoop Miners in midfield, I think, is one of the top midfielders in Europe that I've seen this season. He's definitely the jewel in Atalanta's crown. They're missing Rafael Toloi and Duvan Zapata as well. So Gasparini just continues. Late last season, when I saw they weren't going to qualify, I don't know. I don't think they made any European competition, if I'm not mistaken. But when I saw that they weren't going to qualify for the Champions League, I almost wanted to pour out some liquor for them and put some dirt on their grave and just say have a moment to talk about what Atalanta had done in recent years. Well, Gasparini's just found a way to rejuvenate and reinvigorate the squad, and all of a sudden they're challenging. Well, so far for the title, I don't expect them to stay there, but the way the season started, you can see them challenging for top four for the whole season. So, what a fantastic job for such a small club that they've done, and maybe we'll see them back in the Champions League next season in what's a really entertaining Serie A. But yeah, I think for how they've started the season, they have to be in there. I wouldn't put Udinese on the flip side in this list just because I haven't seen enough of it. Atalanta at least have a bit of a track record in previous seasons. I know it's just on this season, but at least I just think they have better players throughout the team, and I think their ceiling is a little bit higher. So I'll put them in, even though Udinese have been fantastic this season in their own right. And then I begrudgingly put Chelsea in there, so it would leave us two more spots. I guess the names to throw out for those last two spots would be Athletic Club,
I thought you were going to
Bilbao
mention them.
Bilbao have been fantastic under Valverde. I think Valverde is a good manager. He was probably the last manager of the last great Messi Barcelona side, that side that lost 4-0 at Anfield in that Champions League semi-final. I thought that was probably the last really good Barcelona side before this one we're seeing now. Atletico, you could maybe begrudgingly give a mention to, although unconvincing at best this season. Betis, a little bit up and down for me, but Pellegrini's an experienced manager who knows what La Liga is all about. Roma, you could throw in there. Again, inconsistent. I don't like the way they play, too empty in midfield for me personally, and they're relying on Nemanja Matic, which is worrying for me. Lazio, I don't think they have enough star quality apart from Milinkovic-Savic and Immobile, but they're performing well so far this season under Sarri. Who else? Dortmund, of course. To put Dortmund in the top 16 for me is just all about Jude Bellingham and how damn good he is. He's so good, and he's so mature for a 19-year-old. He's unbelievable. I think he was captain again for this derby. And I think the stat was he was the first teenage captain for a Dortmund Bayern game in history. So I think there's more Jude Bellingham conversation to be had. We probably won't have it today, but in terms of potential moves away, I know we've touched on it. There's probably more to speak on there, but them getting in the top 16 for me is all about that guy because he's fantastic. Who else could you give?
Hang on, just while we're on him,
yeah, go on.
If you guys miss out on Champions League, you're not getting him. If he's going to move at the end of the season.
Yeah, if he's going to move at the end of the season. Remember, he's only 19, and the way he's integrated into Dortmund, I don't know how much of a rush he'll be in to move.
Yeah.
Like, say it's Man United who come calling, depending on what Man United we see for the rest of the season. But if Man United still appear to be a little bit iffy, a prospect, I don't know how keen he'll be to jump ship and go to United at the end of the season. And he probably would have already heard from someone like Jadon Sancho what it's like over there and how hard that move can be to make, because Sancho didn't start on the weekend, obviously, for United, and he's lost his way a bit since being that wonder kid at Dortmund. I think he looks made for Liverpool for me. It's just whether Liverpool have that kind of money to blow and will blow like a 9-figure sum on him. That's the interesting question for me. But in terms of the similarities you can see between a club like Dortmund and Liverpool, and the fact that he's already understands a club like Dortmund and is captaining that club, I think it just means for me that he'll understand if he goes into a Liverpool working under a Klopp. Those kind of similarities. I think he's made for it, but there's other good suitors for him out there as well. I acknowledge that.
I honestly reckon if the season keeps on going the way it is, players, you know how players obviously they want to play for the best clubs and like the teams that play the best football generally. He could honestly be giving a look to Arsenal, but I think Arsenal would be in a similar boat to Liverpool where they are unwilling to pay 150 mil, let's say, because if like I think I said in the last podcast, if Rice is 150, then Bellingham is 150 as well, if not more.
Yeah, not more. Yeah.
So the only reason why he'd probably be 150 is because he hasn't played in the Premier League, whereas Rice is an experienced Premier League player, so he what you're getting.
I think, to be fair, I think that number for Rice was just West Ham's way.
It was West Ham. Yeah, it was West Ham's way of
I don't think anyone really thinks that, but yeah.
But at the same time, like you saw City just flat out just chuck 100 mil on the table for Grealish, and like had they not have put 100 mil on the table for Grealish, they probably would have just went, okay, well, let's go 150 mil for Rice if they wanted to get Rice. So, yeah, I think to my point, I think if the season keeps on going the way it is, Arsenal's going to be one of those teams that players are going to be looking at and wanting to go to. Because we saw last season, I think we were in the race to get Vlahovic, and he chose Juventus over us. And now, he might be kicking himself and thinking, well, maybe I should have gone to Arsenal, the way things are looking. And is it Guimaraes or Guimaraes? But he's doing fantastic at Newcastle, so he's probably not kicking himself into not going to Arsenal. But we were in the conversation to get him at one point. But yeah, like it's just going to be another team for Liverpool to compete with in the transfer market, like a genuine competitor in the transfer market. If things keep on going the way they are.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but how many teams are we at, and what?
Well, 14 if we include Chelsea.
I think we have to. Like, they're still.
Yeah, I think we have to. They are in the top four. They've been thoroughly unconvincing, though. I think even these results under Potter have been somewhat unconvincing as well.
Potter,
but they're getting them. They're getting them at least. I thought it was a good move for Potter to resist the temptation to use Gallagher as one of the two central midfielders and use him a bit higher up the park on the weekend. And I thought he was probably one of Chelsea's better players. But again, I don't think Chelsea were particularly impressive in the game. So it's hard for me to defend, but I think just the fact that they're still in the top four, I would still sneak them into this top 16. So it would leave two spots for
any other German teams. Are we putting Dortmund in there or no? And any French teams? Or any other teams, Spanish as well?
Yeah, I wouldn't put any other Spanish teams. It would just be Athletic Club, Betis, Atletico in the running.
I put Bilbao there. Just because.
Yeah, Bilbao, I think I agree with that. So they can go in as 15th. Yeah, I like them. So we're looking for one now.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, one more. So either French or German or even the Premier League.
I don't think the French teams have enough quality, even though I like the way Lorient have been playing. Lens lost on the weekend, so that dampened me a little bit on them, but I thought they'd been playing well going in. So the French league is good to watch for like some of those young talents that maybe clubs can look to snap up soon, but the quality doesn't stay there long enough. So I think PSG are our only real club in the top 16 here. Lazio, I just checked, won again this morning, 4-0. So they're third in Serie A. They've got a good shout to be in this top 16 themselves. Again, star quality a little low. Inter too inconsistent. Yeah. Liverpool too inconsistent at best. That's being nice to them. Look, I'll go for Dortmund just for the Bellingham factor. And the fact that they came back against Bayern on the weekend sort of just nudges them in there. But I think you could go up to 20, including those teams that we just mentioned, like a Lazio or someone like that. Or maybe you could knock out. Yeah, you could knock out. Maybe looking back on the United, even the Newcastle picks in favour of a Lazio
Newcastle, I really like this season.
No, I
But
like
if
it too.
they,
I'm not disparaging them. I'm just saying, in comparison to all over Europe,
yeah,
I wouldn't criticize if you knock those two out for a Lazio or a. Even if you've watched a lot of Union Berlin and you think they're good,
they're top, aren't they?
yeah, they're top, which is
Yeah.
crazy. But yeah, I thought that was a fun way to rank the teams that we've watched, and obviously we touched on pretty much everything we saw on the weekend as well, or everything of note.
Yeah. Well, do you want to rank them, or are we fine just in no particular order?
Well, if I had to give my ranking, I'd go City 1.
Hang on. So City
you want to
1.
write this down?
I'm sort of writing
City
it down.
1, Real Madrid 2.
Hang on, how are you basing it? Are you basing this, like, if they came up against each other head to head, would the team beat the other team, or are you just basing it on, like, how? Because, like, for instance, I said last podcast Arsenal beat PSG, which means that they're better than PSG.
Yeah, but I don't agree with that personally anyway. I'm just rating off the best. I think, like I said with the Arsenal point, what stage we get to watch them is big. Because if Arsenal were playing this well in Champions League as well, they'd be one of the 4 best sides in Europe. But the fact that we don't get to see them on that stage means that, for me, they're automatically disqualified from a Man City, a Real Madrid, even PSG and Bayern for me. So, but I'm not doing head-to-head necessarily. I'm doing in terms of quality of squad, quality of play, quality of results, just an all-encompassing sort of thing.
Okay.
I guess I probably weight results higher than quality of play, but I think they're close to being equally important at this stage of the season anyway. So City 1, Real Madrid 2. I still have Bayern as 3. I still have PSG as 4. Barca 5.
You're putting
AC
Barca
Milan 6.
Hang on. You're putting Barca ahead of Napoli?
Yeah, just because I think they have better quality of players, players who have been on a bigger stage before.
Do Napoli
more experience?
Do Barca beat Napoli in 10 games they
That'd
play?
Be a great,
in 10 games.
That'd be a great game.
Yeah, but if they play
But
if they play each other 10 times, how many times did Barca win?
No, I don't know. You could argue 6, or you could argue 4. But
I don't know,
Barca's defensive record, 1 goal conceded all season, is something else, and they got Lewandowski up front.
I don't know. I'm just not that high on Barca at the moment. Just because I think they're trying to still tie everything together. Maybe towards the end of the season.
Well, that's scary in itself for me, especially if they could get out of the Champions League group. But yeah, I'll still put them 5 because I think what they did in the summer in terms of acquisitions has been really good. I still put AC Milan ahead of Napoli as well because they're defending champions. But Napoli then come in at 7th mainly for excitement of watching and quality of players. But they need to finish the job. That's the problem. We said this about Napoli. They need to finish the job. Then Arsenal come in at 8th.
I already don't agree with this list.
Well, with what part though?
I think Napoli should be higher than Barca. I think Napoli should be 5th. Barca should be 6th. I reckon Arsenal should be 7th, and then AC 8th.
I can't agree with that. AC have genuine, at least I'd say 2, maybe 3. 1 genuinely world-class player, 2 on the cusp, maybe 3 on the cusp. I don't think Arsenal have that.
I don't think.
If Arsenal continue to play this way this season, then a few of those players get into that mention. But as it stands now,
I'm just thinking head to head. I don't think AC beat Arsenal at the moment.
Well, that's different criteria then.
Yeah, I guess it depends what criteria you're using to rank them, but in all honesty, like even just like the eye test and everything, and like the best 11 versus the best 11, Arsenal should be way higher on that list. And I'm not saying that as an Arsenal fan. I'm saying that as a neutral, just watching how they play as well.
Yeah, that's fine, but I don't know. That's not my criteria. My criteria is how good are your players proven to be. Like we could still see Arsenal could still go on a run where they lose 3 games in a row, and then what are we talking about? So
yeah, I suppose so.
that's why I can't put them above. Same for Napoli as well. Napoli and Arsenal are in very similar situations in terms of unproven. That's why I have to put those other 6 above them. But no doubt for me that's just clearly the top 8. And then the rest is very debatable, as we already did. But if I had to rank the rest, Benfica would probably... Tottenham would probably be 9. Benfica would be 10. Atalanta would be 11. Athletic Club would be 12. Chelsea begrudgingly would be 13. Dortmund would be 14. And then... Newcastle, then United, 15, 16. So I guess United were closer to the bubble and could be pushed out, but I don't know. In terms of where they were after the first 2 weeks, I've been pretty impressed with the turnaround and the swallowing of the ego from Ten Hag.
At least you didn't put United above Newcastle, because that would have been a travesty. Based on how I think that. I reckon Newcastle are better than United this season.
Well, we'll see when they play each other, I guess. But actually, the table as it stands says United are better. So actually, I'd flip them. United have played some tough games themselves, to be fair.
You know what game is actually this weekend?
What, Newcastle United?
Yeah, at Old Trafford.
Yeah, that's a good little preview that we'll do later in the week.
So we get to actually see which one's 15, which one's 16. That's actually that's the timing of it couldn't be better.
Yeah, that worked perfectly.
Yeah, that's actually. Oh man, there's 2 games that I'm gonna watch when I get back from football on Sunday. Hopefully guys don't ruin the result for me.
As usual. I think we hit everything from the weekend, and I don't think there's too much to preview because, like we'll talk about off air, it's back to back.
Yeah.
Ties in the Champions League. So obviously, Barca Inter is probably the one with the highest stakes. Chelsea Milan has hugely high stakes as well. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where we're at after this match day of Champions League fixtures and see. Some clubs could be on the precipice of going through. Others could be on the precipice of going out. So, yeah, it's really hotting up now.
Yeah, well, let's see what tomorrow brings. And also, I did manage to get tickets to Dinamo Salzburg, so I'll be at that game tomorrow. So I'll be able to hear the Champions League anthem for the very first time live in a shitty stadium. But yeah, on that note, anything else to add, or are we wrapping this puppy up? Well, yeah. Caleb, as you like to say, if it ain't fixed, don't broke it.
Don't broke it.
And for everyone tuning in, thanks for coming, and bye for now.